We good? Hi, I'm Jacob Phillips. It's nice to see you all this morning. How are you doing? Don't answer that, I'm speaking. I'm here to refute Nick Macklin's claim that bringing a pro football team back to Los Angeles will help improve Southern California's economy. He supports this by saying that it will cut into the number of unemployed Californians, and that it will help bring down taxes. I'm going to tell you why that's not true. Bringing a pro football team back to Los Angeles will not significantly impact Southern California's economy. Why? Why is that? The amount of jobs produced by the stadium does not drastically change unemployment numbers. And that being a 1 to 3% change in unemployment numbers is not evidence of meaningful change. According to Miranda Green, which is the source that he quotes the most in his claim of fact speech, reports that this construction of the stadium will produce 4,000 to 14,000 permanent jobs, and this number becomes minuscule. According to the State of California Employment Development Department, there is 351,200 unemployed Californians in America right now. That is 1 to 3% of the unemployed population solved by the stadium construction. Inconsequential. And that's not even accounting for commuters from Orange and San Bernardino County. Second claim, the tax climate will not fluctuate dramatically from the production of this stadium. Why? Considering the cash flow of California, the County of Los Angeles Department of Auditor Controller reported in 2014 that by the end of the year, the net position, total assets reduced by total liabilities deferred by a whole bunch of different crap, of the county was positive $10.956 billion. Now, they also had a negative balance of about $8.64 billion, so it's a lot of money going through, guys. So $13.4 million in paid tax revenue, another quote from my opponent. Minuscule, nothing. This makes no difference. Now, the teams prospecting the LA move are not big market teams. Another sub-point that my opponent uses, according to Kurt Bodenhausen of Forbes, the least rich big market teams generate more than $200 million annually in local revenue. However, when you look at teams like the Oakland Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are both teams prospecting to come to LA, they only generate after $13 million, $6 million. So another inconsequential number. Decreased unemployment rates does not mean tax rates will decrease. Now, for this, you have to kind of understand what condition our economy is in. If you look at the federal deficit, we're at, what are my numbers here? $16.4 trillion. That's federal debt. And according to the U.S. Census Survey of State Governments in 2011, the federal aid given to California makes up 32% of its general revenue. So by having a team here, is it really going to affect anything that's going on? No. AEG is not willing to pay for the entire building, incurring more debt on the city. In addition to its commitment to reimburse third-party costs, AEG shall in good faith consider reasonable requests by certain city departments for payments of additional fees on accounts of additional dedicated staffing required to process expedited project approvals. What that means is, if AEG needs to get the project done, they can go to the planning department and ask for more money to get the project done. While I've heavily critiqued Nick's source, Miranda Green, I would consider his source to be credible. I don't believe that he read through the entire article. According to Miranda Green, quoting Dr. Mike Leeds, an economics professor at Temple University, there have been Lord knows how many studies, the benefits of teams and the benefits of new stadiums. And what it all comes down to is that they have essentially zero impact on city finances. Leeds looked to Chicago as proof that sports teams are a consumption good, not an investment good. The city has 5 professional sports franchises within its limits, but Leeds found that the total revenue generated from all the teams combined came out to only 0.5% of the total city's income. I'd like to finish off by using my opponent's source. Once again, Professor Lee. Sports franchises are very, very small potatoes. Leeds says the numbers sound big, but a major department store in Los Angeles will generate more jobs, revenue, and income than an NFL franchise. To restate my claim, while the idea of a Southern California NFL team is glamorous, its effects are ultimately flaccid in its ability to stimulate positive growth for the city of Los Angeles.
All right, Jake, you ID the main proposition. That's good. You get to the first point, and basically you're going to argue that you're going to diminish the significance of the advocate's claim. And I think that that's clear throughout the presentation, that that's the goal of the argument, that to suggest that this is insufficient. You give an explanation about the jobs issue that I thought was pretty clear. Let's assume that Green's correct. It's creating 4,000 to 14,000 permanent jobs, and then you put it into contrast to California's unemployment numbers, and it becomes a relatively small percentage that you're dealing with there. So that diminishes it a little bit. I think that quote that you had at the end would have probably fit up here in that particular spot a little bit more, that said, a large department store in the city would generate a greater degree of economic activity than a sports franchise. I think that might have made fit better in that point and made that point a little bit stronger. But I understand the point that you're making there, and I thought that you were pretty reasonable in your analysis on that point. The tax issue is illustrated even more effectively by putting in context how much money you're talking about. $13 million in additional revenues compared to LA County's budget of nearly $11 billion, their deficit of $8 billion. $13.4 million is hardly, it's, what is it, says a drop in the bucket, not even something to sneeze at. There was a term that was small potatoes, that's the phrase that was there. That's pretty damn small potatoes. And then I appreciated the other argument that says that it's the big market teams that are going to generate these kinds of revenues. Now, the idea is that whatever team locates to Los Angeles will become a big market team, but when you say, look, the two of the teams that are talking about moving here, the Jaguars and the Raiders, they do not generate much income at all in the places that they're at, then you need to make the inference that says, what's the likelihood that they're going to generate sufficient income here to produce those particular benefits? With the Raiders in particular, I think would be a good example, because we had the Raiders here, and apparently they couldn't generate as much income as they wanted. That's why they moved back to Oakland. So why the heck is it that we're sitting here thinking, well, geez, we want this team back in our area to generate income when they've already failed once in this operation, or at least that was their opinion. Why do they think it's going to be any different? I like that argument that you developed there. I thought that was a good idea. And then the tax thing, I think, again, you put it into context, especially. The AEG contract, that's a particular proposal that's being talked about, and it might be a reasonable model to make an argument from. It sounded to me more like it was, AEG's agreeing to fees that could go to the city rather than the other direction around. So I'm not exactly sure that you've read that correctly. If there's an interpretation that says what you're saying, you need to tell us where it comes from, because like I said, based on the way you described it, it sounds like it's the other direction where AEG's agreeing if they want to put if the city has like a construction fee contract that they're going to impose because you've done an addition or you've changed something, that AEG agrees that would be legitimate. And I'm not exactly sure that applies in the way you talked about it. And then I like the way that you went into the advocate's own research, and says deeper in the advocate's own research are two quotes from Dr. Leeds that show us that there's not really a substantial impact here. And I like both of those quotes. I thought they were pretty effective in making your argument. All right, good deal. Thank you.